This summer, I became a child again. And today, I'm gonna tell you how that happened. My wife is a person struggling with addiction. Technically, she's enjoying her addiction. I'm the one who's struggling. For many, many years, she chose alcohol. And for many, many years, I carried her to the bathroom when she couldn't walk on her own, when those withdrawal symptoms hit. For years, I tried everything. I begged, I reasoned, I demonstrated, I tried to help, and I tried to convince, I tried to, find some ways. Nothing worked. We tried everything. I kept carrying those buckets with vomit to the toilet, making sure she would drink more water than she would throw up. I was a nurse. I wasn't a husband, I was a nurse. And at some point I realized that I was the one who enabled her addiction. Why she would learn English? Max is speaking almost fluently. Why would she drive a car? Max is a perfect driver. Why would she go and get a job? Max provides. And in that configuration, it's very, very hard to convince yourself to go and do stuff instead of do alcohol. And those days, they just turned into mission on seek and destroy. She would wake up and she would seek for the alcohol. And the moment she would find it, she would destroy it. And at some point I realized that I was the one who enabled her addiction. And I decided to stop it. I made the decision to end our marriage and let her stand on her own. She needed to be without someone she could always lean on, without someone that would give her second, third, and 805th chance. I took her to her parents' house and essentially ended our marriage. I walked away. With doubts, of course with doubts. And it felt like a torture. Am I doing the right thing? What if things get worse? What if this constant what if in my head? Like, is it the right path? Have you tried everything? Maybe this would work that you never tried. We had been together for 11 years, and the last 4 years she would drink heavily. And I mean heavily. Imagine a heroin addict, but replace the heroin with alcohol. That's pretty much the picture. And I endure it. I was enduring it as a camel, carrying those buckets of vomit to the toilet, like a camel would carry water through the desert, 4 years straight. And then I grew tired of enduring and basically ended the marriage and stopped this thing. I had to turn into the lion. I had to find this bravery. I had to find this courage to do that. And of course it was incredibly difficult, but I had to find the strength to walk away, to stop it, to destroy what was already broken. For several weeks I was suffering. And during that suffering, I had to learn how to meditate. And that saved my life. And that's how I became a child. Yeah, I learned meditation. I had to. For years I've been thinking about meditation as a waste of time. But this time was different. Now I had no choice. And I stumbled into it by complete accident. So let's get back to that parents' house of hers. I walked away. And of course, the moment, several days later when she finally sobered up, she would text me with all different cruel things that I'm a very, very bad person. She started sending me those angry messages full of rage, basically, and hatred. And at that point of time, it felt like justified rage, justified hatred. And you see, when you're already doubting yourself, when you're not sure that you're making a right decision, and the closest person to you writes those angry messages, telling you that that's definitely not the right decision. That felt like a torture, to be honest. After all, we have been together for 11 years. And she would insist that things will totally get worse. And in a nutshell, she would basically say that it was all my fault. Naturally, emotions took over. And in my previous life, I would go and get a joint, light up that joint and turn into stone. And basically all of those emotions, they turned gray, they turned neutral, they faded away. Because you literally become in a stone. See, I grew up in Siberia, and in Siberia, showing emotions, that was the sign of weakness. And if you were weak, you're a target. That's just how environment worked. You show emotions, you show weakness, predators attack weak. That's Siberia in a nutshell. So you have to be very smart and clever to pretend that you're not weak, to bury those emotions, to play that you are resilient, to play that you're courage and brave and show zero weakness. And that's basically in a culture. It's with us from several generations and many, many generations. You had to suppress everything. You have to bury everything deep inside and never go and look that deep inside. From childhood, this was ingrained in me, basically zero emotional intelligence. I wasn't even sure what the emotions are. Absolutely no concept of what emotion was. But I reached for help to YouTube, and I Googled something like, how do you deal with emotions? Yeah, that dummy request. And that was the first random video, or the second random video. It was a pretty short video, like 3 minutes. And I clicked on that video, and it completely changed my life. In that video, they suggested sitting down, grounding yourself, and just observing how that emotion manifests in your body. And I discovered something profound. So emotion is a sensation in the body. That's what it is. And I also learned that if I focus my attention on that sensation in the body, within several minutes, it kind of dissipates, it kind of fades away. And I'm like, whoa. So ultimately, by directing my attention to what is happening to my body, that sensation, I was able to, they call it process the emotion, make them disappear, make them go away. Emotion faded, they left. And the first time I processed several emotions, it was several days in a row. First I tried to process the shame, and that was very, very hard to identify and to try to explain to yourself what do you feel. But slowly but surely, that skill was growing better and better, and I was able to process my emotions. And the moment I found myself in the situation, there's another angry message from her, and I read that message. After reading that message, I felt like this giant guy with the huge, like a soldier boot, is standing on your chest and pushes with this massive giant soldier boot to your chest like this. And you kind of have this feeling of heaviness, and you have problems with your breath, and your heart is kind of squeezing and your chest is kind of squeezing. And I'm like, that's all right. I'll sit down and just observe. And within several minutes, it faded away. I remember what I felt that time. I felt shivers down my spine. It's like those goosebumps. And I'm like, thank you. Thank you, whoever made this video on YouTube. That actually helped me. Because previously I would go and light a joint. I would go and drink myself, you know. But this time I obtained the tool to process those emotions during me being sober. How cool is that? No hangover, isn't it? It was a huge relief. And as an engineer, I just couldn't stop there. I was curious what's under the hood, how that worked. And I discovered meditation. Ultimately, what I was doing, I was meditating. I was sitting with my eyes closed. I was trying to get aware of myself. I wasn't trying to, think something or engage in my thoughts or turn that internal monologue into internal dialogue. I was trying to sit there and just focus my attention on the sensation in my body. And that's basically meditation. Yeah, it happened half a year ago, and ever since then, I was meditating every single day. So meditation worked, and I completely transformed. It transformed me by transforming how I deal with setbacks. Because now I know that every setback is just another lesson to learn. You have this negative emotion from this setback, but you have a tool how to process that emotion. Just ground yourself, meditate, like be aware of that sensation in your body. And then by being present in a moment and self-aware and no more that negative emotion, now it's just a lesson learned. I'm still alive. I can look myself in the mirror and I can see the reflection in the mirror, which basically great because I'm alive and I have a mirror under the roof and it's warm and I have water and I have food. Everything else is just, not that bad. And then after that, I instantly ask myself a question. How can I learn from this negative experience? So I know that every fallback happens before the huge rise. Every single time I've fallen, I've risen again. That's basically the school of life. And that lesson I learned 100%. Now let's get more practical. How I actually learned to meditate. And at first it was a challenge. Let me be honest with you. I tried to sit and just meditate. Nothing bad happened. I just knew that, I know the math, I know the studies, I know the scientific papers behind this, and I know that worked. So let me actually try it. Because there are so many perks of meditation. You get more creative, you allow your brain to pause and actually breathe out so it can be able to breathe in. You're more effective problem solver. You're basically more calm and happy and more effective in every single aspect of life. And at first I was treating meditation as something like a waste of time. Like, how in the world I can afford myself to just sit and do nothing for a half an hour? And it wasn't by an instant. First, I was using it as a tool to deal with emotions. But as I went deeper and deeper, I discovered that I'm actually more effective that day because I journal as well. And I journaled meditation and the amount of things that I was able to achieve. And then the second day, no meditation. And it was kind of, and I started to see this pattern. Like those days that I meditate, I was able to complete more tasks in the same amount of time basically throughout the day. So that wasn't a waste of time, it was an investment. You sit there and you meditate and then you're more effective throughout the day. And I'm like, great, I just discovered the time machine. And at first I started doing that 5 minutes, and those 5 minutes, they felt like eternity, to be honest. I would sit there, I would put myself the timer on the 5 minutes, and I was like trying to not think about stuff, and the thoughts, they just randomly was coming in, and I was waiting like, maybe it's already 4 minutes and 30 seconds, and I open my eyes and it's only 2 minutes, and I'm like, no way. So at first those 5 minutes, they felt like eternity. And during that moment of meditation, I realized something, scary. I had spent my entire life constantly thinking about something. As I was doing my, daily routine, and as I was driving, I was constantly thinking about something. As I was eating, I was constantly thinking about something. As I was walking, so basically I would do stuff that I would normally do on kind of autopilot, while my mind is constantly occupied by those random thoughts. Maybe not so random, but still I was thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking, and inside my brain it's not an internal monologue, it's an internal dialogue and several characters, and they all talk to each other and to me. One thought led to another thought led to this one, and by the way, I have to do this one, and it was, it was constant internal chattering. And I picked up this hint from the book called Gestalt Therapy. It's all German authors, and in that book there's this tool. Try to formulate the sentences that starts by saying here and now, I am, and then what is you aware of? Here and now, I'm aware of this noise at the background. Here and now, I'm sitting in the chair. Here and now, I'm aware of, I'm sitting in my studio. Here and now, I'm recording this video. But by saying that, you kind of return back to the moment and the moment of now. And I realized that that's basically it. You can't empty your mind completely. And the moment a random thought pops in, I would say to myself, wait a minute, thank you for this thought, but right now I'm sitting and trying to meditate. And by doing that, I was ultimately going back to this present moment. And that thought goes away. But then several moments later, another thought, but I'm constantly doing those constructions. I'm constantly saying to myself, I'm constantly construct those sentences like, right now I'm sitting and trying to meditate. Right now I'm focusing on my breath. Right now I put my attention to my posture, and I was trying to fix that. And so on. And with that configuration, 5 minutes went faster. But then after several practice like that, I stopped doing that. Because ultimately you don't want to constantly saying something in your mind. You want to kind of get rid of that. And I would sit in silence. And the moment a thought comes in, I was only trying to identify the type of that thought. If that was a memory, I would say to myself, thank you for this memory, but now I'm meditating. If it's like, if I'm trying to plan something in the future or thinking about the future, I'm getting step back and say to myself, thank you for this worry about the future, but right now I'm sitting and meditating. And if I'm in my dream world, I'm thinking about my characters or storylines, I'm saying to myself, thank you for this wonderful idea or this wonderful inspiration, but right now I'm sitting and meditating. It's not the right time to think about my characters and my stories. And slowly but surely, that 5 minutes turned into 15 minutes, and that 15 minutes turned into 30 minutes. And then I found myself doing something remarkable for myself. So I walked into a barber shop to see my barber and do my haircut. And he goes, sorry man, but somehow they mixed up the schedule. You have to wait for another hour because I have this client literally already sitting in a chair. And I'm like, My old Max would instantly pick up the phone, scroll through all of the social media possible, scroll through Instagram, TikTok, read news, read emails. And then after this hour of anxious screen time, I would sit in a chair, in a barber chair, with even more thinking. I saw this news, I saw this story. What about this? What about that? What about, this time, new tool, new Max. I picked up the headphones, I turn on the music, and I close my eyes, and I started to meditate. You know what happened? 50 minutes passed. 50. It almost felt like maximum 25, 30 minutes. But in reality, 50 minutes passed. And I opened my eyes, I looked at the phone, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My wait is only 10 minutes from now. And I stand up, I did some stretching, I was doing squats. The entire barbershop was looking at me as I'm kind of weirdo doing squats in the middle of the barbershop. Well, I didn't care. I just meditated for 15 minutes and I was the happiest person on the planet. And that wait turned into an investment. I knew that after this 1 hour meditation, I would be more effective than without it. So it wasn't just a random wait. It wasn't just a killing of time. It was investment of the time. And so just like that, that hour went up, and I only used my phone twice to start the music and then to stop the music at the very end. How cool is that? Now the technicality, the music is the must. I wouldn't be able to do that without the music. Here's the trick. When you start your music, roughly 3 to 4 minutes per track, maybe 5 minutes per track, even in a scenario when a random thought would come in and you kind of forget that you're meditating right now and you're engaged with that thought, that could lead you to thinking about this thought more and more. And you kind of drift away from your meditation. You kind of drift away. That thought will take you and will grab your hand and drag you to this imaginary world of thought, to the matrix. However, when the next track starts to play, you kind of have this kick, like almost like in an Inception movie, when they synchronize kicks with the music. And I'm like, wait a minute. I was trying to meditate, and here's the next track, because right now I'm sitting and trying to meditate, and I engaged in this thought for more than several minutes. Completely lost track of time, but here's the kick. Come back to reality. And that thought, well, it kind of lose you, and it goes away. So that's why the music is a must-have, and the active noise cancelling headphones is a must. You don't want to get attracted by random noises from the outside world. You want to be concentrated. You want to focus. Because without a focus, it's very, very easy to get distracted. And every distraction will lead into falling out of this present moment. It doesn't have to be the special music for meditation. It doesn't have to be this chanting mantras. For me, John Lennon, Nirvana, Audioslave works just fine. As long as we have this next track thing going, we're good. It's just a compass. It's just like a guiding direction, like a ring bell, like synchronized kick from Inception. So active noise cancelling headphones, music, preferably offline music, because you want to kind of have this playlist, no matter the internet connection, no matter where you are, on a plane, in a subway, in the middle of nowhere when there's no reception, you still want to have that. And the offline music, and I get myself this productivity timer, the gravity timer. That moment in the barbershop, I ultimately lost the track of time, and I don't want to do that throughout the day. I want to dedicate like a half an hour to meditation, and I would just put my timer, and I know that it's going to vibrate the moment the 30 minutes will pass. Because I don't want to over meditate, because I have, stuff to do later that day. So, and that's it. Basically, the headphones, the music, the gravity timer, and yeah, we're in business. Several perks of meditation. If I'm working on some creative problem, like I would start writing something and I know that I need to finish like a draft by the end of the day, and in the middle of the day I realize that there's no ideas, I'm kind of stuck in a dead end, I would take a break. And previously I would, go and walk and do something other than writing or doing whatever I was doing creatively. Right now I know that after this 30 minutes of meditation, the idea will flow. I'm just certain about it. It works like a charm. Now it works like a formula. It works like a charm right now. They say that those words are born from silence, not from other words. And to allow that silence, that's basically meditation. I think it was David Lynch, and he wrote this book, Where Do Ideas Come From? And it was about transcendental meditation. Transcendental meditation is good and fine, but it's not for me. It works like a lullaby to me. The moment I will constantly repeat something over and over again, 10 minutes later, I'm gonna be snoring, like 100%. For me, it's the music and the next track and the contrast. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm meditating. So transcendental meditation, try it. If you like it, that's your kind of poison for me. I'm sticking with this non-transcendental, non-conventional meditation with this music. So guys, thank you so much. It was a very hard summer for me, but I'm very thankful for what happened, because ultimately I'm a better person right now in my own kind of eyes, in my own set of eyes. I'm looking at myself in a mirror, and I realized that without that crisis, without that brutal divorce, that wouldn't happen. I would be locked in this matrix of my constant thinking and overthinking and worrying about stuff that might never happen, or remembering something from the past and feel bad about the past in the present moment. Now I'm looking at myself and I'm like, Max, you just, by doing what you did, by having this crisis, and by trying to process those emotions, you learn how to meditate. And thank God you did it at the age of 38. You're still kind of in the middle of the life. Some people will discover it in their 60s, and they will immediately regret not discovering it early on in their lives. But, this Edith Piaf, she sang this song in Inception, and the translation to that one is, I have no regrets. So, no regrets to that crisis, no regrets to my alcoholic wife. I actually love her, and I remain single, hoping that someday she will, understand everything. She would start to meditate and see Alcoholic Anonymous or something like that. And that day will come. I'm not sure when, but I know for sure that I'm still in love with her. That I do know. But no regrets. Thank you.